Mercury. Whew, that set me up well. That's a good sunny morning song, isn't it? That's what you need. My next guest is James Kelsey Fry. Obviously, he is currently contributing editor for the new Internationalist magazine and a regular commentator on this for various news and radio stations, including this one. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. Absolutely breathless after that amazing song by Mr. Mercury.
I know, it's good, wasn't it? That lifted me.
Yes, us sort of slightly close to middle-aged gentlemen have kind of had a good workout.
That's as near as we get to a good workout.
I'm exhausted by tapping my foot. My goodness, I need to lie down.
I bobbed my head for at least a minute that before I had to rest. Is it true? Did you say you saw them? Tell me about the lineup that you saw Queen.
This was an amazing lineup. So it was a very long time ago, obviously, but it was the Lewisham Odeon. I don't think they have gigs there anymore. And it was headliner Queen. Leading up to the headliner, Yes. And support act, Buggles.
And that was the one that got me. Yeah. That was the one that got me excited.
Queen,
Buggles.
Nah, Yes, nah,
Yeah,
Buggles.
Buggles. Video Killed the Radio Star. Who isn't going to love that?
I think we've just pushed the audience into a very niche area who know who we're talking about.
I'm willing to bet you'll find
Really?
everyone knows Buggles.
Really?
Everyone knows that song. Video Killed the Radio Star.
Yeah.
Alice, the producer, do you know Video Killed the Radio Star by Buggles? Of course she does. And she's a young lady. She's a young whippersnapper. A young lass.
What is a
about town.
whippersnapper, though? What
I've
is
no
that?
idea.
No.
I don't know what that is.
Can someone tell us what that is, please?
Yes, if anyone can give us the definition of whippersnapper and where it came from, that would be brilliant.
The day would even get better, but it started well.
It started well, which is good.
Yeah.
We're talking today about parenting, amongst many things, and doesn't matter if you've got older parents or not. Tim Rice is 72, and we've got a caller. Jamie, join in at any point, by the way. John in Feltham, good morning.
Good morning. Just quickly, I just want to say I went to a Elton John concert at Watford Football Club.
Yes.
Wow.
With two special guests. We didn't know what they were, who they were. One was Rod Stewart, and one was ELP.
ELO or
Emerson
ELP? Oh, ELP, Emerson Palmer,
who just died, didn't he, recently?
Oh, wow. They were surprise guests.
Just absolutely wowed because they couldn't appear with Elton John. They were raising money for Watford Football Club, so probably persuaded them to come. But it was the best concert I've ever been to.
Oh, I bet. Wow.
That is amazing. As special guests go, I once went to a gig which was a Philip Glass gig in New York.
Oh,
and his special guest...
classy.
I know, yeah, a bit of a weird classical gig. Sorry about this, John. But his special guest was Iggy Pop.
Oh, wow.
And that blew me away.
Yeah.
So it all worked for me. Right, John, tell us about older parents.
Elderly parents. Personally, my mother died when I was 23. My dad died when I was 27 because they were older parents. So I could not get any advice from them regarding relationships. I had to deal with it myself. Couldn't show how proud they were at me when I became successful at various things. And I would say, from my personal experience, anybody over 50 who has a child, I would put it under child cruelty.
Oh, really? That bad?
It's about the child. It's all about the parents. Every time there's this story, callers call in and say, yeah, well, I'm going to have a baby at, 57, but I'm still quite fit, and because I earn more money now because I'm 58, and because I'm this, and because I'm that, and because I can go here and go there. It's all me, me, me. It's never about the child.
Interesting.
And I never hardly hear any presenter saying to any caller, with the greatest respect, yeah, but what about the child? Nobody ever talks about the child. And yet in every other endeavour of our life, the child comes first, doesn't it?
That's really interesting. That's John, that's a really interesting perspective. When you were growing up and your parents were around, were they in touch with modern culture and the things that would be important to you anyway?
I think that depends more. You can have a parent of any age, but if you go through life where nothing changes much, let's say the 40s to the 70s, but if you go from the 70s to the noughties with computers, the integrated circuit board, all the technology that's appeared in that time period, I don't know that you couldn't have any parent of any age that wouldn't be out of touch. I mean, I think parents today are out of touch with their kids because they didn't grow up with the iPad and the e-reader.
No, you're right there. My daughter, because I don't know how to use Instagram properly, my daughter's furious with me constantly. So you're right there. I haven't got a clue what she's doing.
Yeah,
but
so it depends on what decade he's going on. Because as I say, probably they were closer back in the 60s. Because back in the 50s, you started with women's lib, and if you had a daughter in the 50s, by the 60s, at the height of women's lib, your daughter was 10 or 12, and probably you had a great relationship with your daughter, and the daughter had a great relationship with the mother. So it just depends on what decade you're around. But as I say, if you're over 50, we please just concentrate on the child? And then if it looks like the child is going to be okay, if there's plenty of other cousins and nieces and nephews and all that, and you know he's going to be part of a huge family, that's different. But if it's just mum and dad and they're both over 50, I think it's child cruelty.
Very interesting.
John, thank you so much for calling in with that. That's a great perspective.
Have a great show. You always do, and I always listen.
Oh, John, thank you so much, mate. Have a lovely day. Thanks.
All right, bye-bye.
That's really interesting. I'd love to hear from you. John thinks if you're over 50 and you haven't got a big support network with a family, it's testament to child cruelty. Yeah. What do you think? Give me a ring. 020 722 42000. It's Kelsey Fry.
Can I say something? Good, actually. No, fantastic.
No, you can't.
I've just remain quiet in the corner.
You just do what you're meant to do.
No, listen, John brought... That was a brilliant call from John then, and he brought up something about, modern parenting and, digital technology and what a difference that makes. This is very interesting stuff, Tim. Check this out. So this is research that came out only a month or so ago, and it's very frightening. Basically, young parents today, because they spend so much time on digital technology, i.e. their phones or their pads, babies are growing up not understanding how to use micro gestures correctly.
Really?
Because the face of the parent is not using micro gestures when it spends so much time looking at screens, because you don't use your micro gestures when you're looking at screens. We all know what micro gestures are. You and I are looking at each other at the moment. Little tweaks, that's how we experience.
And it's how we understand, and we subliminally read micro gestures to understand how to communicate with each other.
And children are not growing up with those skills because so many parents are on that technology. Frightening thought, isn't it?
That is weird. Yeah, I've seen babies, like literally tiny babies who can barely crawl, who go up to the television and try and make it do that kind of thing where they swipe it.
Yeah.
They try and make it get bigger or smaller.
Yeah.
And it's just frightening that they are already, those kind of gestures though, they do understand.
Yes.
Even though they can't do it on the television, they're used to doing it on an iPad.
Yeah.
But
are we just, when we're gone, our generation's gone, there won't be any people left on the earth who remembers life pre-digital technology. So are we just being old dinosaurs going, that dodgy stuff, it's really affecting kids' heads?
Yeah.
But, there's another side to it, which is it's the most important invention, that's ever happened for this species. But there are some other sides to it that we have to be conscious of as well, and that's one of them.
Yeah, and it will be, and I can guarantee within 25 years the world will be an entirely different place.
Yeah.
I saw that in the newspaper, as we get towards the newspapers, one of the news stories I saw last week was that Google has just copyrighted or taken out copyright for a computer that goes in your eyeball.
Here we go.
And it basically...
We're going to see that in our lifetime.
I think we'll see that within the next 10 years. Yeah. And it basically is a microcomputer that will go in your eyeball. It's designed to help you with sight. So people who are losing sight, it focuses the rays and it then relays the information in. But while you're doing that, you can also use it to access all the information on the web. So you can also use it as a screen to see things with. How crazy is that?
Yeah, that is amazing. If you think about what it was like when we were kids, we just had marbles, didn't we?
We were perfectly happy. And I got it stuck up my nose. That was the nearest I got to integrating with any technology.
You did what?
I got it stuck up my nose. A marble, Google would be putting computers in eyes, I got a marble up my nose. It's not the same, is it? But, it's got a similar feel to it. If you have an opinion, by the way, on older parents, or also on how do you keep somebody's memory alive, I'm really interested in that, give me a ring, 020 722 42000. Mr. Kelsey Fry.
Yes.
Do the front pages, sir. What have we got?
I certainly will. So let's start with the... okay, the Sunday Times. So the front page of the Sunday Times, viewers, listeners, you've got spy chiefs say quitting EU is a security risk. So Boris takes fight to Cameron with battle bus, and it's about what it says on the title, basically. The MI5 say it's better if we stay in EU. But also on the front page of the Sunday Times, Prince gets no satisfaction at home on my beep. He uses a rude word for bottom.
Right.
And that's quite interesting. So Prince Harry has revealed that he would have loved a job after leaving the army, but was unable to find one that would enable him to combine with his royal duties with full-time employment. And it made me think of a cinema usher. That'd be fantastic if you're going to a cinema and actually, Prince Harry is like, I want to try out what it's like to be a cinema usher. I know it sounds frivolous, but to be honest, actually, if a lot of people in positions of authority and power, particularly the government, but also in the royal family, actually did do jobs like that, I think it would be brilliant. Yesterday we were studying, for New Internationalist, we were looking at Mujica, who used to be the president of Uruguay until recently, and he describes how, because he was against the kind of previous governments, because they were sort of corporate takeover governments, he spent 10 years as a prisoner, 8 years actually down a well on his own in solitary confinement. And he said, if you live like that, you understand life very well. You kind of accrue some sort of wisdom. And he talks about the fact that so many governments in the modern West have had no real experience of what it's like to live as an ordinary person. And I went to a private boarding school. I had that privilege myself. But I know what that privilege does to you. It completely removes you from the reality that most people are living through.
Particularly as well, when from both sides, both left and right now, you have a political class.
Yes.
So you have people who go into politics and that's their job, rather than, I guess, what it might have been, when I was growing up anyway, people had jobs and then they kind of went into politics. Whereas you have people now who they, right from university, aim to be a politician, but it's like, well, go and experience the real world.
Yes, it's frightening.
That was the only thing I had about. I mean, I loved it actually with the SNP. The success of the SNP, I'm all for that. I just think it's a brilliant story. But they had that girl who got in who was 18, was she?
Yes,
was the youngest ever MP.
Someone black, Lauren Black. Yeah, brilliant.
Who is fantastic.
Yeah.
But there is that little bit of me that's like, wow. Really? You maybe want to go and experience life, but then she may also just bring a fantastic perspective that the House of Commons has never had before, which is a young person's perspective of just being. So maybe that's great.
No, I think that's a good point. Yeah, but also she comes from very much a working class background, so that's really, really useful because that's like very much the minority. Something like 70% of people in Parliament have gone to private boarding school, which is ridiculous, really, when you look at it.
Okay, other things on the front pages?
Yes, that's front page of the good old Sunday Times. And then we're over to Sunday Mirror. So this is, I don't know if you've looked at them this morning, so there's a good picture of Chris Evans down the bottom. Chris Evans exclusive, I've been wild, but never a bully. So this is obviously referring to the guy who was running Top Gear before, who did appear to be, allegedly, something of a bully. So it's just talking about, this Passover from the previous guy to Chris. The front page of the Daily Star, Kerry romp with Corrie star Ryan. So pairs romance after David Guest funeral. So it's just a celebrity story.
Yeah.
The Daily Mail on Sunday. Okay, so UK Navy officer joins the IS. So a Navy officer who trained at one of Britain's most prestigious maritime colleges has fled to Syria to join the Islamic State terror group. So it's an interesting story. What draws people to join IS? And there's BBC did a fantastic programme about it called My Son the Jihadi, I think. And it's interesting. People are kind of thinking, they're just recruiting ill-thinking teenagers, but actually this is obviously a very intelligent person who's been drawn to the IS, so it's really important to analyse this and see what is happening that someone like that would go and join. The front page of The Observer, this is a very big story, I'm sure people have heard about it already, but Khan, so our new first ever Muslim mayor of London, come on, Khan. Fantastic! Khan accuses the Prime Minister of taking his tactics from the Trump playbook. Someone's got to write the Trump playbook, by the way, I'm sure we'll talk about him later on the show, but... and that's him now. Obviously, he's been considered, he's been voted in, he's now worked out his response, and obviously he's going right for the jugular in the sense that Goldsmith's campaign, arguably, was extremely racist and very, very controversial, as advised by Linton Crosby, who obviously is a very frightening character. We all know about him. He's just been just been knighted, and he's the guy who's the proper PR spin doctor for David Cameron. And he also represents fracking companies and tobacco companies. And he was the guy who's been advising Goldsmith about how he should have done his mayoral campaign. And it fell back in its face. But let's look at this. The reality is you've just basically got a guy, he's Australian, I believe, who says, this is how we're going to play this. This is how we're going to spin it. It's nothing to do with reality, nothing to do with the well-being of a city or a country at all.
Although to be fair to Linton Crosby, every party has their own spin doctors. Everyone has campaigns and how they do campaigns.
Yes.
We've just come up to the news. We'll come back inside. How many more have we got to do on the fronts?
I've just got 3 more fronts.
We'll do those and then we
stories.
will hit the inside of the papers.
Yep.
Lovely to have you here, Jamie.
It's lovely to be here.
It's 9:30, which means it's time for the latest news headlines with Will Schindler. BBC Radio London, it's 9:30. You're listening to Tim Arthur here, joined by Jamie Kelsey Fry. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
We are just finishing up the front pages of the newspaper, then we'll be delving inside. What have we got still left to do on the front pages?
The last ones are the Sunday Express. Dignity for Diana at last. Princess's grave to be overhauled after neglect complaints. So that's what it says on the title, basically. So Princess Diana's grave has been sort of left, and it's going to have a multi-million-pound facelift following criticism that her grave in Althorpe has fallen into neglect. And also, Boost for Seaside as Britain basks. It's a fantastic title, obviously, because it's a sunny day lots of people going to the seaside.
And I love the fact that we get excited about the weather, and the fact that it'll be snowing within about 3 days.
Yeah,
because of course it is May. So
I used to live in Bangkok in the 80s, and because people like us would arrive there and just go running around, going, it's so hot, and then fall over in pools of sweat. They stick them out a mile. They stick out a mile. Front page of the Sunday People. Ryan Giggs, days after splitting from wife Stacey over a waitress, he's back flirting. So another...
Yeah, so man goes out on date.
Man goes out on date, the celebrity story. Goodness gracious. OK, down to the last two. Now, one of the stories you're going to be picking up today, I don't know whether you and I are going to talk about it, but the secret heartache of the MasterChef Victor, that's on the front page of the Sunday Telegraph. So if people don't know the story, Jane Devonshire, her name was, the mother of four from Hampshire, who is a newly crowned MasterChef champion, has revealed that she kept her 10-year cancer battle a secret from the show's judges because she did not want them to be influenced by sympathy, which is an extraordinary thing to do. And I love the MasterChef show. When it started, Love of My Life and I really just had to watch it, and we never watched television, but we just had to watch it. And then we would go to our local supermarket, and it was, honestly, the whole country seemed to be watching MasterChef, and people literally were getting their normal shopping and then saying, have you got any raspberry jus? Yeah. And all these things we'd never even heard of. Everyone suddenly fancied themselves as, I'm the master chef,
I know. I must say, we can talk about that a little bit now. I watched this series. Again, every series that comes up, I go, I'm not going to spend so much time in my life. Now it's like 3 nights a week as well. It's quite a commitment over 7 weeks. But I don't know why I bother. I'm always going to get addicted to it. And Jane, who won, if people, by the way, that's a spoiler alert, but it's already gone out there. If you haven't seen it, she won. So, tough. It's on all the newspapers. But I do think it's an amazing story. And the fact that she didn't tell any of the judges, because she didn't want it to affect, she didn't want them to have sympathy for her. She's been struggling with cancer for 10 years. She's an amazing lady, just a really great story. And it's just the antithesis of the kind of backstory things that so many reality TV programmes are built on,
exactly.
Which is about dragging sympathy out to then create this kind of character. Whereas she entered it genuinely because she wanted to create great food, she wanted to see how far she'd go, and she won it. And I think it's really, really amazing. It's a beautiful, beautiful story. Congratulations. I cried my eyes out. I watched it. I did. I watched it about 2 o'clock in the morning because I did catch-ups. I watched like 3 in a row to see the final thing. I started like 10 o'clock at night. At 2 in the morning, I was just in pieces on my sofa just going, I'm so proud of you. You did it. So beautiful. Oh, the rabbit dish was amazing. There's the only thing the rabbit dish was amazing. It was. It was. Brilliant. And her rhubarb and custard was so moving. And she survived everything. It was great. She was just brilliant, but she was just a really nice lady. And the great thing about it was, as well, you could tell how much of a lovely lady she was because the two competitors who she beat were over the moon for her. Genuinely over the moon, as in, this couldn't have happened to a nicer lady. And the great thing was, it was nothing about sympathy for her. It was just, she's a lovely, lovely lady who's really succeeded in something and really just put her mind to it as well. Really, she's really determined, really strong, and just went, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to win MasterChef. And she did. Love it. That is a great news story.
Yeah, okay, that's brilliant.
Yep, so then let's go inside the newspapers, Jamie.
We go inside. Okay, cool. So, what you've got, one of the ones I've chosen today is a story on page 4 of the Mail on Sunday. Energy giants, despicable con. So, obviously, with New International, being a contributing editor for New Internationalist, one of the things we're very concerned about is climate change, of course, and also the energy companies that are making huge profits out of in this country what could be construed as a monopoly, and they were called. There's the big 6 energy companies, and in this story here, one of them, there's been an undercover Mail on Sunday journalist who's gone undercover and become part of one of these huge energy companies and has seen the staff training. That's what the story's about. The dirty tricks of the UK's second biggest power provider, staff trained to exploit fear of customers and to hide the cost of switching. So, this is not unusual at all. What you've got is the tricks of the trade where you learn to rip off the customer in ways that are semi-legal, semi-not legal. And it's good on the Mail on Sunday for actually doing this undercover reveal on how this company operates. But there's a bigger story here, which is twofold. One is this. Although people generally read maybe on page 7 of the Guardian, there might be a story about activists, and people generally kind of put them into a pigeonhole of crazy froth-mouthed lefties who drink too much cider or whatever. But actually,
that's why I put you, to be honest. I mean, that you pretty much described how I see you.
Thank you very much indeed. I'll just have a slurp of my cider. But of course, we're not. We're people from every walk of life. And what's becoming really interesting, particularly for me, because I'm like 52 in July. And I'm seeing now a whole resurgence of people who are literally giving up on the general political system, realising that the changes that we desperately need, you're not going to be able to vote for. We have to use civil disobedience and mass civil disobedience to get anywhere towards a decent, sustainable, equal future.
It's really interesting. So last week we had Mark Thomas on the show talking about his new show, Trespass.
God bless him.
And so I went to see it this week, and it was a fantastic show. I mean, really, really good. And all about his kind of minor, often humorous disobediences that he would do to kind of counteract sometimes big business, but just injustices that he sees in the world. And what was fascinating, I was sat next to a guy who was probably somewhere around my age, sort of late 40s, early 50s, who just kept sighing, like all of your like and I thought he wasn't enjoying it at all. He'd laugh a bit and then he'd go, and then at the end, I couldn't sort of stop myself. I turned around and said, was it not your kind of thing? And he just went, I should just do more. And it was really interesting.
Oh,
It really hit him. He just went, I just don't do enough. He said, I feel as passionately as Mark does, but I just don't do anything about it.
Brilliant.
He said, I just watch telly. And it was a really interesting...
And shout
at the telly, yeah. And he said, my kids are always telling me, if I feel that strongly about something, instead of shouting at the telly about it, why don't I go and do something? And it was just really interesting. He went, I think I will. And I think Mark was doing an event on Friday, and he said, I'm going to go. I'm going to go to that. I'll make that my first step.
Well, that's what I'm noticing. Is more people, particularly young people as well, are going, we've got to do something and it's not going to work in the normal political avenues. They're not working for us, so we've got to do something.
And I'm slightly interested in my daughter's generation as well, that don't particularly... I mean, I'm literally talking from, a survey of my daughter and her friends, but they don't particularly align themselves with left or right. They align themselves with issues.
Yes.
So particularly, environment is really strong for my daughter, and also the refugee crisis. My daughter took herself and trained herself up as a mentor for refugees, and she does that out of her time at university because she thinks it's a good thing to do. But it's not for her. It's not a left or right decision at all. It's just, this is an issue that somebody should be doing something about, and she wants to engage in it.
Well, I think that's profoundly healthy. There's a huge movement happening across Europe at the moment called Nuit Debout, and every night in Place République in Paris, for example, 20,000 and upwards are meeting every night. And they've got this great phrase, which is neither left nor right, but straight ahead. And that's that sentiment. And I think that enough people now have felt so let down by both right and left governments that they're actually thinking we just have to have a systemic change. You're not going to vote for it, and the answer isn't to kind of throw yourself into the left or throw yourself into the right. And in fact, that's where it's going to happen. That's what's going to happen in our lifetime. There will be a very, very powerful systemic shift, and it's going to be because of people having that attitude and also going, well, then we're going to have to go out and do it ourselves. So often you kind of go, someone should do something about that, but it's actually you are that someone, and people are working that out. So to go back to this story, Energy Giants Despicable Com, this is one of the tips that I wanted to give to your listeners. Back in 2012, when we had just finished occupying outside St Paul's, when we did the Occupy camp, there was just across the road from St Paul's, there's a huge hotel, and the big 6 energy companies were there having a meeting in the hotel. So a whole load of us went down and we surrounded the hotel, and we're trying to raise awareness about the fact that they are having a meeting in there, creating a monopoly, working ways by which they can milk the British public for as much money as possible, as kind of paper thin legally as possible. And we knew that that's what the meeting was about. Very, very heavily policed. But the point is, at that time it was hardly covered, but those people who bothered to go down there, they are the people who are at the front line. They're the people who've worked out, unless we do something, then we're gone. And they are prepared to put their body in front of their convictions. Now, you do not put your body in front of your convictions. You do not risk your liberty unless you've really thought it through. Okay, so these aren't attention-seeking, cider-swilling people at all. These are people who've gone, yes, I'm a rational thinking person, and this is our only chance. So I think it's important for people to look at what activists do and think, well, that's the area we should be considering. There was a brilliant demonstration about 3 weeks ago started by a journalist called Abby Wilkinson, in fact, and fantastic young journalist, and we all ended up outside Downing Street, and it was about the revelations of David Cameron's father being involved in tax avoidance through the Panama Papers kind of reveal. Now, that was fascinating because I would say 90% of the people there had not been on a demonstration before, and they had the same attitude as your daughter, in the sense that they were horrified that the SWP turned up and tried to hijack our demo, and that Class War turned up, all these different lefty groups. They didn't have anything to do with that at all, but they'd come out on an issue, and they just wanted on tax avoidance.
It's very interesting. What's the other story you got, Jamie? We're running out of time. Any others?
Okay. Oh, shame.
I know.
All right,
it's gone by. It's flown by.
Well, okay. Well, there's a nice, easy segue then. So, the tax haven firm, okay, there's a tax haven firm that owns our HMRC London office. Now, that's quite extraordinary, considering David Cameron's going to be hosting a huge meeting next week that's meant to be addressing the tax avoidance problem. And actually, our own HMRC office is owned by a Bermudan company. So that's actually a tax haven firm itself owning that property, which is just appalling hypocrisy. And I had a meeting last week, and they're over here at the moment, people from OCCP. So that's the organisation of 25 journalists and techies, very importantly techies, who were one of the people who were behind the Panama Papers and putting that all together and putting it out online. What's really important here is that it's not this government cannot possibly make a change about tax avoidance because they've been voted in by tax avoiders. If you look at the campaign, the funding of the campaigns for the Tory party, you know, these are huge hedge funding companies. They're the main ones. They all exist because of tax avoidance. There's a wonderful story that comes out every year about, you know, the amount of people owning something like 50% of the planet's resources. You could fit them all on the top of a double-decker bus, you know, and that comes out every year. Oxfam does the research, I think. But they wouldn't be on that double-decker bus if there was not the ability to kind of do huge tax avoidance. So trillions, 32 trillion.
And we should also say in that front, this is a global issue. The tax avoidance, because it is legal, by the way, as well. We should say that the things they're doing at the moment.
Yeah, avoidance is legal. And evasion is illegal.
It's a legal thing they're doing, but also it's a global issue. You know, while certain places are allowed to have tax havens, people will take advantage of them. Companies will take advantage if they can. They
are legally bound to take advantage of it. That's the thing that people
because they have to do it for the shareholders. They have to try and save money.
But the Internationalist has written quite a lot about it because you're absolutely right to bring that up. In Africa, some countries in Africa, 3 out of every $4 disappears into tax avoidance, which is terrifying, considering that some countries are really struggling, and still almost all the money that's there gets denied of them. You know, the Congo, famously, has been cursed by resources, and as a result, 5 million people have died over the past 5 years in civil wars there, and all the money's been completely drawn away from the people. You know, so tax avoidance is a serious global problem. You're absolutely right. But in this country, our particular government, they will not do anything about it. They'll say they will, but they definitely won't. But they're not allowed to, because the people who put them into power are all tax avoiders. That's the problem, isn't it? You know,
it's a dilemma, and we will see. Not all of them, but we'll see how that goes. Right, Jamie, we've sort of come to the end of our time. Oh. We're going to end though on a lighter story.
Yes.
Just because there's some very serious things in the world, and I'm glad to see that scientists around the world are spending their time correctly trying to solve the world's greatest problems. The two particular stories that have come up this week that I've read, and I thank goodness that our tax money is going in the right directions. It says, so this is, the borrowers would be scientifically impossible, study shows. Tiny human beings such as those depicted in The Borrowers could not exist, new research has shown. Scientists writing in the Journal of Interdisciplinary Science Topics argue that the miniature characters in Mary Norton's children's classics would be virtually blind, deaf, as well as perilously cold. But the new study shatters the scientific possibility of Norton's charming world, pointing out that biology and physics do not necessarily scale down uniformly to suit smaller beings. That's right. So scientists have spent a decent amount of time disproving the fact that the borrowers could ever exist. Other things recently they have spent time doing is they've looked at Pinocchio. Apparently he would have broken his neck after telling just 13 lies. Spider-Man would have needed 43-inch hands to stick to a wall.
Sorry, Spider-Man what?
So Spider-Man would have needed 43-inch hands to stick to a wall, apparently. Miley Cyrus, she could not come in like a wrecking ball without serious injury. And Star Wars, Princess Leia is nearly 2 years older than twin brother Luke Skywalker. This is what the serious research is doing. Yeah. And the final piece of research that I loved, and it was, I think, done really as a jibe to Tottenham after they lost. They lost the league, and they were, obviously very sad about it. But students at Leicester University have confirmed that it is not actually possible to cry a river, even if the whole world was weeping. Natural science undergraduates Leah Ashley and Robbie Rowe calculated how much water or tears it would take to match the flow rate of the world's shortest river, the Roe in Montana. As they said, however, while copious sobbing may not be able to create a river, it could fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool, the students suggest. See, this is the kind of research. Sure, you're banging on about, tax avoidance and climate change.
Serious
but come on, look, can you cry a river? No, not even if we tried. Jamie, thank you so much for coming in. As always, it's a total pleasure.
Keep following the New Internationalist, and I'll see you soon, I hope.
Thanks, mate.